Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. It is the third and final week of my series on Torg Eternity, where I talk about the systems and mechanics. Torg has a fairly straightforward character creation system, and has a little bit of a quirky D20-based core system. But one thing that truly sets Torg apart from other systems is these. It uses cards to determine a lot of things. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy as I talk about the systems and mechanics of Torg Eternity. So, Torg Eternity is a D20 based system, sort of. This is a system where you don't actually use the direct die roll to determine your success. What you do is you roll a D20. The D20 explodes on a 10 or 20, i.e., you roll, if you roll a 10 or a 20, you add the next roll to it. If that roll is also a 10 or 20, then you roll again and add that one to it, etc., until you get a roll that is not a 10 or a 20. And you then look at the roll total, and that tells you what the modifier is. You then add that modifier to your relevant skill or attribute. So, let's say you have a skill of 8. You roll a 20. Right? You got that 20, so you then roll again, and you get a 16. So, at that point, your total is 36. That is a plus 11. Your skill was 8. So, your total for that action is a 19. Which is a heroic difficulty number. So, you would have succeeded on a heroic action. Or you got a good success by being more than 5 points over, but less than 10 points over a standard action. Being 10 points over would have gotten you an outstanding success. Modifiers do not affect the die roll. They affect your bonus total. Thus, if something was giving you in that roll of a 36 a plus 2 modifier, you got your 11 plus 2 for 13, plus the 8 for a total of 21. Now, there are two little things that get this a little funky. First off, there's what are called favored skills. Certain perks, spells, or abilities give you a favored skill. And what happens when you do something that has a favored skill with it is, if you don't like the first roll, and that first roll is not a mishap, you can re-roll it. But you have to accept the second roll. Mishaps always occur on a 1. And a 1 is if you roll a 1 on that first die. So even if someone gives you a reroll, this mishap has occurred. If you roll a 1, you cannot re-roll it. Now, there are things that expand the range of a mishap. Make it occur on 1 or 2, or in some cases, a 1, 2, 3, or 4. Only a 1 cannot be re-rolled. But all the others, if you have something that lets you re-roll that, you still suffer the mishap even if you succeed. So those are cases of you succeed and still something bad happens. Because whenever you get a mishap, something bad happens. It's not just a failure. And then you have possibilities. See, every player is given 3 possibility chips, more if they have appropriate perks. And what happens with these possibility chips is you can spend one of these chips to re-roll a die. Now, if you re-roll this die, you have basically used possibility energy to change your outcome. And what this means is there is a minimum die result whenever you spend possibility energy. That minimum result is 10. No, this doesn't make the die explode. But it does mean that anything less than 10 is a 10. Which basically means you would end up with a minimum bonus of a -1 if you use possibility energy. Now, in combat, you use these for your initiative. The drama deck. And what happens in the drama deck is each card has a number of bits of info on it. It has 2 lines that tell you who goes when. The standard rounds or scenes where it's just the normal scene, even if there's life and death in it. Even some deadly combat, it's still a standard scene. And these are the majority of scenes. Dramatic scenes are the scene that is meant to move it to the next act. And the drama deck tells you who goes first in standard scenes, who goes first in dramatic scenes. They will also tell you if there are specific modifiers affecting the party that's acting at that time. There are also on the bottom of these what are called approved actions. And what happens is if you succeed on one of the approved actions, you get to draw a destiny card and add it to your hand. Not to your pool, to your hand. Now, you ask, what are destiny cards? Well, they are just what they sound like. And how they're used depends on whether you're in a scene being tracked in rounds or not. While time is being tracked in rounds, what you will do is, at the end of your turn, you get to put one of these cards into your pool. Face up in your pool. for you to spend later. Now, you can at any point trade a card in your pool for a card in someone else's pool. These have to be 1-for-1. There's no giving away cards to somebody. So if they have a card you need, or you see that they will be helped by a card you have, you can trade your card for a card that they have. If they don't have a card in their pool yet, well, you can't trade with them. Now, there's a special thing, though. Once per act, you can say you are playing for the critical moment. Put your entire hand of Destiny cards into your action pool, and you must spend them all and activate them all immediately. You cannot save any of these for later. And this is a case of, if things fail in this critical moment, you end up with no Destiny cards, either in your pool or in your hand. And so you've ended up sort of screwing yourself over if you fail. If you succeed, however, you can do something truly awesome. Of course, you're also given Cosm cards. And they're not Destiny cards. They don't count against your hand size, and they never go into the pool. They can be played whenever the card description says it is appropriate. Because that's what makes them special. They are effectively rules of the Cosm made manifest. And that's the basic core mechanics of Torg Eternity. Simple, fairly straightforward. Now let's talk about how you make your Storm Knights. So, you're starting to make your first Storm Knight. The first thing you have to pick is your race. Now, this is important. Most characters are going to be human. Now, if you are from certain Cosms, you can be something other than human. If you're from Isle, Dwarf, and Elf are available. If you are from the Living Land, Edenos are possible. That's pretty much the races in the core book. After you've picked what race you're going to play, you pick your Cosm. Now, personally, I think that this is in the wrong order, that you should pick your Cosm first, and then pick your race, because, you can only be Elf or Dwarf if you're from Isle. You can only be an Edenos if you are from the Living Land. Anything else is most likely going to be human. So, yeah, I really think that these two steps are in the wrong order. But as you fill out your sheet, you will write your axioms from your home Cosm down. Then, of course, as a reality-rated character, you get your 3 possibilities. You have 40 points to spend between your attributes. The attributes in Torg are Charisma, which is, Charisma. How likable you are. How influential you are with others. Dexterity. your quickness, manual dexterity, agility, and reflexes. Mind, intelligence, perception, knowledge, and cunning. Spirit, your resolve, self-confidence, and resistance to fear. And strength, which is brawn, endurance, physical fitness. It's how much you can lift. It also kind of applies to how long you can do strenuous activity. So strength is kind of a combination of strength and constitution or stamina. And you have 40 points to spend between these. You have a minimum of 5 in any of them. As a human, you have a max of 13. Other races have different maximums depending on, on which race you picked. Then you get your skills. Now, how skills work is each skill is linked with an attribute. You must spend one of your 16 ads on reality. So, in effect, you've got minimum of one ad in reality, and then 15 others that you can spend. And each ad is adding +1, +2, +3, etc., etc. You cannot put more than 5 ads into any attribute, into any skill starting off. So, what this basically means is, let's say you want to be a really focused character, you would have your 1 point in reality and then 3 skills with 5 ads in them. Or you could spend that 1 point in reality and then do 15 with 1 ad each. Or you can do reality with 2 and then 7 more with 2, or any combo. Then you get 2 free perks. Now, I've mentioned perks. Perks are those special things. Those abilities that set you apart from other people. Now, perks are varied. For instance, if you are a dwarf and you are strength 10, you can take the Dragon Warrior perk. And this is a perk you can take multiple times to enhance it. It's the Dragon Warrior. The Dragon Warriors are the last champions of the dwarves who were virtually annihilated in Isle. As a final desperate measure, they built suits of powerful arcane armor designed to slay Uthorian's hated minions. So, basically, they are magical armor wearers. When you take it, you get 1 enhancement, and then you can take it again and again to add new enhancements. But the armor itself has a set of basic stats, and 1, 2. You can take it from the core book up to 7 times to get all of the enhancements. And that's the thing. You get 2 perks. So you could maybe take a Dragon Warrior if you were from Isle. If you were from Pan Pacifica and you're an Electric Samurai, you take your Ion Gusoku, which is the Electric Samurai armor. and it is pretty much a tech variant of the Dragon Warrior. If you are from Aurorsh, you take the Occult Talent Bulletsmith. That gives you your Slayer's Gun. It gives you the knowledge of how to make a certain number of bullets. And lets you make 6 special shells for your gun. You start off knowing how to make a limited number of bullets, and each time you take it, you learn to make a new type of shell and can maintain 2 more special rounds in your bandolier, which always sits at a maximum of 18 shells. At the same time, there's just so many different perks you can take. One of the more interesting perks, and this is to me a great example of how the perk represents culture and setting and can be set up for as the character advances, is a perk for dwarves. Bearded/braided. And the requirements for this is you have to be a dwarf, you have to have at least 3 adds in melee weapons, and you must have personally played a glory card from the Destiny deck. And here's basically what it is. Most dwarves feel a deep sense of shame at having failed to stop Uthorian from taking over Isle initially. And so, they don't maintain their beards if they're males. They don't properly maintain their hair if they're females. They let this all just kind of go shaggy. And when they do something that makes them feel they have regained their honor, i.e. playing that glory card, they start looking after their beards or their hair again. Female dwarves will braid gold into their hair. The male dwarves will, as they start maintaining their beards, start working metals in. And overall, it doesn't do much per se. It just looks cool. And it's kind of interesting that it takes all that to get to that. But if they're able to play that glory card, meet the requirements as when they advance later on, and they take this perk, it means that they get 1 extra wound. That's pretty much that. But it's still an interesting themed cultural change. Something that matters as your character advances and evolves. Because, yes, your character will advance and evolve. At the end of each act, you should typically gain 5 experience points. Raising an attribute costs the new rating times 2. So increasing from strength 6 to strength 7 costs 14. Raising a skill costs a number of XP equal to the new level. And your first new perk costs 5 XP. Each new perk beyond that costs 2 more points than the last. So, your first perk costs 5, your second costs 7, your third 9, etc., etc., etc. When you have accumulated 50 experience points, the Delphi Council improves your clearance level. They let you have access to more information, better gear, and they send you on higher risk missions. One thing that I find really sets Torg apart from other RPGs is it actually outright says in the core book, if one of your Storm Knights has died, or for some reason the player's having to make a new one, he starts with the same XP as the rest of the party. So that when he's building the character up, he's at the same level as everyone else. There's no, oh look, here's the newbie who's having to deal with surviving around massively skilled and dangerous individuals. You know, there's no new person trying to deal with, you know, level 1 in a party of level 20s for a D&D reference. He's on a par with everyone else. Because, of course, the Delphi Council is not going to send someone into an established team that's not able to hold up with them. But that is character creation, a little bit about the perks, and a little bit on the advancement in Torg Eternity. Next week, I begin a lengthy series of overviews where I am going to be talking about Star Wars games. I'm going to be starting with the West End games, working up to the current Fantasy Flight games for RPGs over several weeks, and then I'm going to talk about the first edition of X-Wing. So, next week, I start talking about Star Wars. Until then, I'd like you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.